great time to remind you our Path to Draft coverage is brought to you by Pluckers, and you can join us all at one of the area Pluckers locations Thursday night for our draft night parties. Calvin Watkins ripped a 7-rounder today, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because he went in round 1 the same place you did today.
Oh, we took the wide receiver. I mean, excuse me, the cornerback, the Michigan corner.
Will Johnson there at 12. Yeah. What were you guys thinking here?
I'm trying to do my very best to put myself back in that place. To quote the great Jerry Jeff Walker, I'm trying to put myself back in that place. And
Eastbound and down.
No, it was talking about being back in London.
There you go.
When you're down on your luck and you ain't got no. So I can sing me Jerry Jeff Walker songs, but anyway, I was trying to kind of put myself in like, okay, what would they do? Not what I would do, because I would I'd take Simmons and I'd kind of figure out other things.
Trade up for Genty.
Yeah, I do. You're right. I might trade.
Get a little weird,
but I just think that to me that they're going to and I took the premise that McMillan is going to be gone. So I tried to create the worst situation for me with him. I'm like, okay, Genty goes at 5, McMillan goes at 6. Oh wow. I was sitting there holding for McMillan here at 12. How much do I really, really love Golden? And on my stack, is there a great deal of depth between Golden and then between McMillan and Golden, and who are the players in between there? And my gut's telling me that they probably got Will Johnson up there. They probably have this corner. They talked about it today. Shoddy even brought it up. I really appreciate it. I think it was Kyle Yeomans.
Yep.
Asked the question about length, because somebody asked me a question about why would they take Barron? And I said, because he's not long enough for them.
Mm-hmm.
And when I heard, like I say, I heard Shoddy's explanation. I was hoping to get Will's explanation of that, but it just seemed to me that they would fall in love with a guy like that.
Like Will Johnson, cornerback Michigan.
Yeah, 6'2".
They're not going to mind his lack of speed.
They're going to
or lack of 40 time running.
I think they like it. They think he's got fluid hips and can move well.
Yeah. See, to me, I question that. I don't think they do. This Will Johnson has never ran a 40-yard dash in high school, college, and now the pros. Just his whole life, he's never run. He might not know how to run a 40-yard dash.
But he plays fast because of how athletic he is, as long as it's not long speed that you're looking for.
The thing about it is you could play him off and he'll react, and he's been banged up. I mean, he missed this year with with some issues.
Yeah, he's got lower extremity problems.
Yeah, so to me, but I could see them making a pick like that.
But hey, 2 years ago, 7 interceptions. And you're right. When he plays off coverage, he can close downhill. He's really good at reading the quarterback. He's smart. The issue to me is when you watch him turn his back to the quarterback.
Yeah.
And then that's where, where's the ball?
Yeah, not enough awareness there.
Sometimes.
Okay, but we do know the Cowboys like taking corners in the first round. In the second round, Calvin Watkins went with Travion Henderson, the running back from Ohio State. That would be exciting.
That would be a blessing if he's there.
Okay, and then in the third round, the guard from Georgia, Tate Rutledge.
Yeah.
Do you think he could be a plug-and-play guy, for considering what the Cowboys have at right guard?
I think it would be really, really close on him. The problem that I have with Rutledge, I think he plays with all the power that you want a guy to play with. I just think, to me, though, that he might be just a little bit too big. When it comes to the mobility stuff, Zach, am I off base here with that? Like, he gets movement through mass.
Yeah, he does. He's a mauler.
Yeah, he will maul you. But I just wonder how well he really hits in space.
Yeah, because he can get a little top heavy, and then he leans into blocks, and that's going to cause him to get off balance. But he definitely could compete to start at right guard.
Yeah. One of my lines in my notes, Dawson, was, don't need to ask him to do much in the way of pulling or playing in space. That was one of my lines in my notes here.
Okay, it is an NFL draft big board report. I love the topic of Shedeur possibly being on the boards when the Cowboys are sitting there at 12. Is this the expectation at this point for you guys? Do you believe Shedeur is going to make it to where the Cowboys are sitting?
I have enough people telling me that the Giants are not going to take a quarterback when they're picking, and the Saints aren't going to take a quarterback. Now we'll see how much. If the Saints might take a quarterback, but it might not be Shedeur. It might be Jackson Dart.
Yeah, I know Schefter's been in on that. Like they like Dart a lot. I think a lot of these teams want to take the quarterback, but it's, can we move back, or do we move back into the first round, or do they end up falling to the top of the second? I don't think it's in the top 10 right now outside of Cam Ward.
I mean, if you don't love the other players that are available, I think you're 1 to 3 years away from moving on from Dak. And I don't know the next time you're going to be sitting here with a chance to pick in the top half of the first round. It might very well be next year with better quarterbacks on the board. Maybe you want to take your best shot at building around Dak right now, but it's another injury. It's the other side of 30. You know me. Right now I'm thinking, hey, let's create an awesome offensive line that can give him great protection and pave the way for a run game. Let's get an awesome running back in there and a second wide receiver. But if instead they decided to say, let's take Shedeur Sanders here, and next time Dak is hurt, we're going to find out what he can do in the NFL. Until then, he's figuring it out. That would be really exciting to me. You just don't get opportunities to take guys that, were that accurate in college.
I think we're going to have a potential replay of the Johnny Manziel situation, that Jerry is going to stand up and he is going to make Schottenheimer or Will or Steven say, no, Dad, we're not doing this.
This is probably the situation where you decided, hey, we need a backup plan for Tony.
Yeah.
Now, you took Dak in the 4th round.
Right.
And in that year's...
you tried to move around, get Connor Cook, and...
you were trying. You were trying to get a first-round quarterback.
Jerry was so upset that they didn't trade back up to get Paxton Lynch.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
That was the year you took Zeke, though, right? So you did at 4 have a chance at taking maybe not
compensatory pick 135.
You could have moved up for Goff or Wentz or something like that. I don't know, but I think that is going to be a lot of fun Thursday night with the Cowboys on the board if Shedeur is there. That's definitely one of those huge tune-in moments. Cowboys EVP Stephen Jones, when asked about Micah's contract situation today, says it comes with the territory. Right now, there's a difference in what we feel is the right number and what he feels is the right number.
He took a shot across the bow too at the agent community of the world too, because the question was asked in a really good way about, hey, listen, it could be their fault too, and he's like, absolutely, it could be, So agents and the Joneses are kind of at the impasse right now. Agents really don't have anything to do. Agents just can kind of wait because they know the Cowboys will eventually get them what they want.
You say, here's the number, and until the Cowboys actually stop capitulating in the end, they're too predictable.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, we want a team-friendly deal if you want it now. And if you're asking for a lot, then you're going to have to wait until the actual deadline, and then we're going to give it to you. They still have given way more to any quarterback to Dak than any other quarterback has gotten, and I don't know how many years that's going to happen, but they did the same thing with Zeke, right? They cave. They lack credibility. They are the horrible poker player at the table that everybody has massive tells on right now, and it's making them entirely too predictable. The other thing, the big part of it, though, is they're unwilling to move on from their stars if they drafted you, and the agents know that fact. Like, you're not moving on from us. You're not even going to consider it. If suddenly they would trade a Micah Parsons in a situation like this, I think suddenly their negotiating stance at the table would have a lot more credibility. But until they do that, they are the cavemen. The best thing Jerry Jones said today is his wife Jean cried when the Mavs traded Luka. I thought that might have been AI Jerry when I clicked it, but it was the real deal. Said she's a huge fan of this basketball team. And then apparently
they got really good seats.
Yeah,
they do. They have really good seats at the games.
Apparently, Jean was quite a hooper back in the day. Made 17 consecutive free throws in a high school state championship game. Clutch. She went fully D-Wade.
That's pretty clutch right there.
One afternoon and
took it to the paint. Got some foul calls.
Arkansas, probably in Little Rock, one afternoon in a gym with the state championship on the line. Gene Jones was just sawing them one after another.
Kicking
Yeah.
ass.
Yeah.
I wouldn't foul her anymore if it was me. They were probably getting her the ball so she could get fouled. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I imagine.
That's clutch, man.
Yeah. That is huge. That's something that, I'd be bragging about myself. 17 straight, a state championship game.
Impressive.
Okay, for the Cowboys, there are 4 potential wide receivers that could all be the best guy in the class. This is like a Ruggs, a Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson type of situation. McMillan, Golden, Egbuka, and then Luther Burden, Missouri. That's the guy Dez likes.
Mm-hmm.
How do you rank him, Brian?
I have Hunter, McMillan, then I have Burden, then I have Egbuka, then I have Golden.
Where was all the Golden hype from last week? How'd that? I mean, it seemed like for about 10 days, all the rage was the Cowboys are going to take Golden.
I think to me that he is different than what they have. There's a guy that has that playmaking ability with speed, with big time speed. And I think that's where all of a sudden they were going to sell us the idea, and we really didn't hear it today. We didn't hear anything about Mingo and things like that. But he's completely different from what they have. That type of player, and that's why I think there was a lot of buzz about him.
I think when they try to sell me on Jonathan Mingo, that's more offensive than Nico trying to sell me that defense wins championships.
Borderline. Yeah. I mean, it's just we did a Love of the Star episode a couple months ago. I forgot Jonathan Mingo was even on the team. Bit forgettable, if you ask me. And that's a 4th-round pick. And I hope that he ends up panning out. He has not had good quarterback play. But Egbuka just kind of fills, in my opinion, everything they've talked about. You're talking about trying to build a culture. That is a leader. He's done everything the right way. I think he's NFL ready today. I think he's one of the safest picks in the draft. I don't think he gets enough credit for what he can do in terms of after the catch. He's not just a possession receiver. I think he can play all 3 spots. I think he's getting kind of pigeoned as like he's a slot-only guy because that's really what he did a lot at Ohio State, but he can play outside. I'd be looking at the Egbuka route if you don't get Tetairoa McMillan.